Good morning. Welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. I'm Jeff Snyder. This is BRN AM for Thursday, July 29th, 2021. And our top story today, proper cyber hygiene when working from home. Joining me now to discuss this and a lot more, Kevin Urso is the president of Connected Technology, LLC. Kevin, great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us on the program this morning.
No, thanks a lot. Good morning.
Yeah, and look, we can never talk about too much about cyber hygiene. Kevin, a lot of people kind of going for a hybrid approach if they're even going back to work, into the office, but many people are still working remotely. And that creates a lot of vulnerabilities for people like yourself, cybersecurity experts, security experts.
Yeah, definitely. Working from home, you're not behind the traditional security that maybe has been set up for your organization. So you really have to take a look at that and understand what your risks are, what you have in place, what you maybe don't have in place, and really understand just the environment that you're opening up.
Absolutely. And for those of us working remotely, I'm working remotely. I know you spend time in the office, on the road with clients, and also at home. I would think that a good, we always talk about hygiene when it comes to brushing our teeth, washing our face, shaving, etc. There's got to be some tips and tricks people should follow if they're going to work remote. I would think one of them might be have a separate laptop for work and home.
Yeah. So if your company can afford or you have the means to do it, to have a dedicated corporate machine for your employees, that's definitely the way to go. Because then you can, it gets a lot more complicated when you're using a person's personal machine, trying to put some of those security and some of those controls in place. Because what happens when they're using that machine on the weekend to watch videos, and it becomes a lot harder to protect it. So if you have dedicated corporate laptop, that's the way to go. And then you also have to think about, what controls do I need to have in place? How is my email? How is my two-factor? All that stuff going to work when the person's working from home?
Yeah, I was reading this article, which I shared with you, and one of the guilty parties was involved with sending corporate information to personal email accounts. And this is not something new, Kevin. I mean, you and I have been working for a long time now. In the past, we have sent files. I mean, I can speak for myself. I can't speak for you. I have sent files to myself so I could easily access them. But that is a no-no in today's environment.
Yeah, definitely. Just in terms of, the corporation owning the data, as soon as you start using some of those free services, that personal or even that, in that corporate secrets, let's say, is no longer yours. It's Gmail, Google, Microsoft, all those different free services, it's out there now. Where when it's on your personal system, you have a much higher level of control over what happens to that data. And
also kind of carry that forward, let's talk about phishing a little bit. You've talked about it before, advocating, education. We'll talk to that a little bit later in the segment. But there are, in this time of uncertainty, because in parts of the country, in New York and other places, we're experiencing an upsurge in upsurge in the virus, the Delta variant, maybe people are working from home. That level of uncertainty creates the desire to have more phishing attacks by some of these bad actors. So you've got to be on the lookout, whether it's your machine or your company's machine, to avoid those phishing attacks.
Yeah, so phishing is still the number one way companies are getting attacked. So the ransomware, again, we've talked about it a couple of times. For small business, can be devastating. It's very hard to defend against because it only takes one person. So that weakest chain is the weakest link in the chain is what you got to worry about. So if you think about your organization, do you have one person that you think might click on that email? That's all it's going to take to potentially shut you down. Or worse now is, maybe you do have a good backup, but all your data gets exposed. So do you have company secrets there? Do you have information you don't want to get out? And they're using that as blackmail. And that's almost impossible to defend against.
Yeah, that trust, build that trust back. That's near impossible. Kevin, when a couple months ago when I heard about the Colonial Pipeline, I thought of you not because you're a bad actor, but because of the ransomware and the fact that I think the Colonial Pipeline people paid a ransom. Just want to get your thoughts on that. Hopefully, none of your clients have been exposed in that way. But does that enable? And I know you can't speak about it from a Justice Department point of view or a government point of view, but doesn't that just enable bad actors to do more? Hey, I can hold your data and information hostage, and just because they hold it hostage doesn't mean that they're going to give it back to you. And if they give it back to you, maybe they still keep a copy of it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if they give it back to you, it's still a breach. So you're still going to have to probably notify all your clients of reputation, all that happens. The Colonial Pipeline was interesting because they hit, and typically they're hitting small to medium businesses, right? Now with the Colonial Pipeline, they hit an infrastructure, and now all of a sudden the U.S. government got involved. So I think they went a little bit too big there.
Yeah.
And you actually see them pulling back. They're pulling back and they're saying, hey, let's go after these small businesses where they don't have any recourse. It's a lot easier for them. They're going to get paid. They're probably going to pay the ransom, or their insurance is going to pay, or they don't have a backup. It's a lot easier for the bad actors to play in that space than it is in these big infrastructure type attacks.
Kevin, let's talk about some of the holding people accountable. We're all accountable, whether it's to our bosses or our customers or our families, or our wives or spouses. How do we hold people accountable for their actions, whether on purpose or by accident, tripping a phishing attack or a ransomware attack? Can you hold people accountable, and how do you avoid that?
Yeah, I think it's very important. No matter how many security things that we put in place as the IT people, it has to be a team effort. It's not going to work just by putting all these blinky boxes in and these controls in. It has to be from the end user and that stuff as well. And it needs to be a corporate policy. Your corporate policy has to, almost like a handbook. You expect people to, sexual harassment, all these different things that you do in the office, you expect people to do properly. Your IT hygiene has to become one of those, because it is, I tell people all the time, I think the chances of you having a fire in your business, are much smaller than you getting hacked. I think the chances of you getting hacked are much greater, and you have to be protected against that.
Well, Kevin, I need to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about cyber insurance. The cost is going up, and do you need it? You're going to want to stay tuned right here on BRN AM.
You need a financial plan that fits the way you want to live in retirement. A plan that can help grow and protect your money, now or in the future. With an annuity in your plan to help cover essential expenses, you'll have the freedom to live the retirement you want. This is what an annuity can do. Find the right financial professional to show you how. Learn more at protectedincome.org.
Got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network.
Are you stuck with a low credit score? A credit report and score that's causing you to be denied credit or pay higher interest rates than others for the same things? Then do what Terrence did and call Credit Repaired for your free credit evaluation to help restore your credit.
I started thinking about buying a new house, and my score wasn't where I needed it to be. I called and spoke with one of the representatives, and we just had a good conversation, and I liked what he was saying.
Just one call for his free credit evaluation was all it took to start back on the track to repairing his credit.
I'm seeing the deletions and I'm getting the report, so I know something's being done. it does make a difference to me.
All it takes is one call to get started.
Credit repair has given me a second chance to have a better credit score.
Don't let a low credit score hold you back another day. Do what Terrence did and make the call for your free credit evaluation.
Call 800-819-4152. That's 800-819-4152. Again, 800-819-4152.
Welcome back. We're talking to Kevin Urso of Connected Technology LLC. Kevin, thanks for staying with us this morning.
Great, I'm enjoying it. Thank you.
So we had a great conversation about all these risks that you face as a small business owner, a large business owner, and even as an employee. What about cyber insurance? Do you need it? First of all, what is it, and what does it cover, and do you need it?
Yeah. So I think this day and age, it's a no-brainer. You definitely need it. Cyber insurance is different than your traditional BOP policy. Your business protection policy. It's a very specific set of coverage. So it may protect you against a ransomware. It may protect you against the cost to get set back up again if you did have a breach. So I think for most organizations, it's a very important thing to talk to your trusted insurance provider about.
So this would be very different, Kevin, than errors and omissions insurance, just a typical business continuity or business insurance policy. How do you go out and buy this policy? Do you go out to a typical commercial insurance broker? Are there specific people who are now specialized? Do they go to a firm like yours to get that?
No, not necessarily to us, but a company like us may be able to advise you on some trusted people. So we have a group of people that I feel comfortable sending my clients to that understand what we do and understand the insurance piece of it too. So I think you need to have that person that understands the technology enough and obviously is a professional in the insurance area and can advise you as to where your risks are, because it's changing every day. We're seeing people that had policies, all of a sudden when they go to renew, the price has spiked tremendously. Mm-hmm. And we're also seeing people all of a sudden who are trying to get policies are now being asked all these questions. So the insurance company is saying, how are you set up? What protection do you have in place before we give you this policy? They're not going to just write it without going through that checks and balances first.
Yeah, and I want to talk about, I guess, back in the past, there weren't a lot of breaches. 10 years ago, there weren't a lot of breaches. And so it was kind of like a gimme. You just pay premia in, and everyone's, cool. Now that we've had breaches, Kevin, you alluded to the fact that these premiums, these prices are going up. How much of an impact does the Colonial Pipeline, some of the things we hear about with credit fraud or data scraping, like in the case of LinkedIn, how much does that go into, just Jane and John Doe, small business owner, what they pay?
Yeah, I think it's significant. So they're definitely paying more, and I see it on our side. We are constantly getting questionnaires from our clients that are coming from their insurance provider, and our clients are coming to us saying, I don't know what they're asking me about here. So all of a sudden they're asking, the questions used to be 5 or 6 questions a few years back. Now typically they're 30, 40, 50 questions, or there's some portal you have to log into they really are vetting the potential person that's buying the insurance to making sure that they're not a wide open risk for them. Yeah.
It reminds me of, and this is a bad metaphor, and maybe not one really even related to this business, but after 2008, and there was some impact to breaking the buck with money market funds and stable value funds, which are really big parts of retirement plans. And so there was a lot more scrutiny around how those types of portfolios were constructed as a result. And so you had an investment policy that was really signed off on by the insurance company. Something similar happened here where, because of all these things that are happening, you mentioned large surveys and questionnaires being filled out, but the insurer maybe even coming on site and saying, okay, well, you don't have a web portal, you don't have VPN, you're the technical guy. I mean, are you really seeing a lot more scrutiny in that regard?
Yeah, they're definitely asking have you had a third-party assessment done? Has there been a penetration test done? So there are definitely, you can't just say yes to all these questions, like maybe you could in the past. You could say, yeah, I had antivirus. I'm patching my machines. They're really going way beyond that at this point, and it's because there've been significant breaches, significant payouts. So it's changing.
Yeah. Like I said before, if you're not making any payouts, it's just money coming in. It's just money profit.
Right.
But I think like anything else, it's like healthcare. The more people, like if you have an insurance pool of people in your company and more people are using it for a particular year, you'll see the rates go up. If you have, people, have unforeseen circumstances, maybe they have children, it drives up the cost of the pool. You're going to see people pay more.
Yeah.
Kevin, are there ever any cases where, let's just take a sole proprietorship, something like my business. Have you seen cases where people, maybe in my circumstance, cannot get cybersecurity insurance because, I'm a sole business owner. I don't have access to any data, but they just say, hey, it's not worth it.
No, I think you can get the policies. Again, I think it's important that you are talking to your trusted insurance person that has the knowledge in cyber that can guide you through it, because you may not, the way that policy is written can be written very different than someone like me. I have a very different policy than most people because I'm in this space. So I think that person, it becomes almost like your trusted lawyer, your trusted accountant. You need that person that can help guide you through it.
Yeah. Well, it certainly makes business more challenging. And I guess last question, Kevin, are you seeing clients just kind of throw up their hands? Their challenge as it is dealing with protecting themselves, their employees. But then when you have to buy insurance, you have to think about all the ancillary impacts of things down the road that can be involved. Do people just say, they push back from the table and say, Kevin, you're in a quarterly meeting, whatever, and they say, I don't know what to do here, Kevin. Is it even worth me being in business to spend all this money
Right.
on these types of support systems for a support part of my business?
Yeah, I definitely see the pushback, and what I try to tell people is this has become something where you really need to figure this in as like a yearly line item. You need to budget for it, as it's something you have to plan on. It's a cost of doing your business, and I think also in terms of in the past we've seen a lot of companies maybe trying to do some of the cybersecurity themselves. I kind of think the days of that have passed too. You really need someone that lives and breathes this stuff every single day, because I don't think it's realistic to be on top of it, on your own.
Yeah. Well, if you're a small and medium-sized business, Kevin, you may not have the resources and the expertise to do only your business and all the parts of your business, but also human resources and other, running a retirement plan, et cetera. So outsourcing to a firm like yours makes a lot of sense. Kevin, we're going to have to leave it there. Really interesting conversation, really important conversation. Thanks so much for joining us, and we look forward to having you back on the program again very soon.
Great. Thanks a lot for having me.
Kevin, great to see you. Thanks very much for sharing your perspective. That wraps up this episode of BRN AM. Have a topic of interest, someone you think we should talk to, drop us a line. And don't forget, for all the information in retirement markets, technology, personal finance, so much more, check out today's edition of our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse. We're back again tomorrow, so until then, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes.
Are you being audited, and do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Is the IRS threatening to take more of your money? Don't fight the IRS alone. The Tax Doctor is here to help you negotiate your tax bill and reduce your stress. The IRS can freeze your assets and seize your bank accounts, but you can stop these IRS actions. The Tax Doctor will work with you using our years of experience to represent your case to help you get the best resolution under the IRS guidelines. Help is here to deal with the IRS to reduce your stress. We've handled thousands of cases, so we know what we're doing. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes, do not call the IRS alone. Call a tax doctor now for a tax emergency analysis.
Call 800-224-6439.